At 85, Chuck Norris isn't trying to prove anything anymore. The man who once built a career on discipline, strength, and quiet intensity now spends more time reflecting than competing. In recent conversations, he's spoken openly about stepping away from Hollywood to care for his wife, making it clear that real strength isn't always loud or public. It's personal. When he says his life has been focused on taking care of her as best as he can, it doesn't sound like a headline. It sounds like a decision made day after day. That kind of honesty has shifted how people see him. He's no longer just the action star from decades past. He's someone looking back at a long, complicated journey, choosing to speak carefully about what mattered, what didn't, and what he's learned along the way. Clearing the air about rivalries. Stories about Chuck Norris holding grudges or naming fighters he can't stand tend to get exaggerated over time. In reality, Norris has rarely framed his experiences in those terms. Like any competitor, he faced tough opponents, disagreements, and moments that tested his pride. But he has usually spoken about those experiences with respect rather than resentment. The martial arts world, especially during his competitive years, was intense and deeply personal. Fighters trained hard, losses felt heavy, and rivalries could become emotional. Still, Norris has consistently emphasized growth over conflict. When he reflects on those years now, it's less about who upset him and more about how those challenges shaped him into a better martial artist and, ultimately, a more grounded person. The reality of competition. In the 1960s, the American karate scene was filled with strong personalities and rising talent. Chuck Norris stepped into that world without an easy path. He lost matches early on and faced opponents who exposed his weaknesses. Fighters like Joe Louis and others pushed him to rethink everything: his technique, his mindset, even his confidence. These weren't personal feuds, they were professional challenges. Every defeat forced him to improve. Over time, those same competitors became part of the story that defined his rise. When Norris eventually became champion and held his title for years, it wasn't because he avoided strong opponents. It was because he learned from them. That's the side of competition that often gets lost when stories are retold for drama. From struggle to discipline. Before any of that, Norris was just a quiet kid trying to find his place. Growing up in a difficult home, dealing with insecurity, and moving constantly left him feeling disconnected. He wasn't naturally confident or physically dominant. In fact, he often described himself as the opposite. That background is important because it explains why martial arts became so meaningful to him. It wasn't about fighting others, it was about building himself. When he joined the Air Force and later discovered Tang Soo Do in Korea, it gave him structure for the first time. Training demanded focus, patience, and consistency. Slowly, those habits replaced doubt. What people later saw as toughness was really the result of years spent working through fear and uncertainty, building something from nothing. After returning to the United States, Norris didn't step into fame. He built his career piece by piece. Opening martial arts schools wasn't glamorous. There were financial struggles, long hours, and moments where success felt far away. He taught anyone willing to learn, from everyday students to eventually celebrities. His reputation grew not because of marketing, but because of discipline and consistency. He wasn't trying to create a persona. He was sharing what had changed his life. That authenticity attracted people. Over time, his schools became known not just for technique, but for the mindset he encouraged: respect, control, and personal responsibility. Those values would later carry into his film career and shape how audiences connected with him. The turning point in his career. Meeting Bruce Lee marked a shift that Norris didn't fully anticipate. Their friendship introduced him to a broader world, one where martial arts and storytelling intersected. When he appeared in The Way of the Dragon, it wasn't just a role, It was an opportunity to show his skills on a global stage. That famous fight scene wasn't about ego or rivalry. It was about showcasing two different styles with mutual respect. After that, Norris began receiving more opportunities in film. His transition into acting wasn't immediate or effortless, but he approached it the same way he approached training, with patience and persistence. Over time, he carved out a space for himself as a uniquely American martial arts star. Fame and its complications. Success brought visibility, and with it came pressure. As Norris's film career grew, so did the demands on his personal life. Long hours, travel, and public attention created strain that wasn't always visible from the outside. His first marriage, which had begun when he was very young, eventually ended after decades together. Norris has acknowledged that he made mistakes during that time, and he hasn't tried to rewrite that part of his story. Instead, he's spoken about it as a period of learning. Fame can amplify both strengths and weaknesses, and for Norris, it forced him to confront aspects of his life he couldn't ignore. That honesty has become a defining part of how he reflects on his past. Finding balance. Later in life. In later years, Norris found a different kind of stability. His second marriage brought a sense of balance that he hadn't always experienced before. Becoming a father again later in life added a new layer of responsibility and perspective. He's often spoken about how those experiences shifted his priorities, moving his focus away from career and toward family. That change became even more clear when his wife faced serious health challenges. Norris stepped away from acting, not out of necessity, but out of choice. For someone whose identity had long been tied to strength and independence, choosing to be present and supportive in a quiet, consistent way showed a different kind of resilience, public opinions, and public reactions. Outside of film and family, Norris has also been known for speaking openly about his beliefs. His views on politics and social issues have drawn both support and criticism over the years. Unlike many public figures, he hasn't tried to separate his personal convictions from his public image. That approach has made him a polarizing figure at times, but it's also part of what defines him. Whether people agree with him or not, he has remained consistent in expressing what he believes. For Norris, that consistency seems to matter more than public approval. It's another example of how his idea of strength extends beyond physical ability into the realm of personal conviction. What really endures? Looking back, the idea that Chuck Norris is defined by grudges or rivalries doesn't hold up as well as the idea that he's defined by persistence. The opponents he faced, the challenges he endured, and even the controversies he encountered all contributed to a larger story about growth. At 85, his reflections feel less like revelations and more like reminders. Success isn't built on avoiding difficulty, it's built on learning from it. Norris's life, with all its highs and lows, shows that toughness isn't just about winning fights or building a career. It's about how someone responds to setbacks, takes responsibility, and continues forward. That's the version of his story that feels the most real, and the one most worth remembering.